Don't you find it surprising how many AAA Western games either go free to play if they're live services or get massive goddamn discounts? Sometimes not even like maybe like a month or a couple months after they release. And this is clearly something to have to do with, again, maybe the lack of sales of products, and they need to justify to the shareholders like, oh no, the sales are there, but the shareholders really just don't really look at the pricing of the product. But they have to release them at $70 just to rope in, the normies, so the people that aren't in the zeitgeist. But then after that, they're like, oh, we'll lower the price even more. That's why if you really want to play a game from AAA, just wait a couple months. I mean, you get a more functional product. You get a cheaper product. And I mean, if the product ends up being garbage, and if you're really interested, I mean, you can just look up, what like reviews. And if it ends up just not being what you want, well, you just don't buy it. This is why waiting has always been the optimum strategy with any game. But obviously, there's people who buy a game the minute they come out because they don't want spoilers or they want to enjoy the game. And hey, I was one. Actually, I think I still am one of those people. I'm just not. I just don't really play Western AAA titles anymore. But Diablo 4 goes free to play over Christmas as PoE's 2 dominates. And again, because like the people who paid money, they're effectively getting, well, people use the word scammed a lot. I mean, you're still getting the product. It's just you're getting it at a reduced price or as like at like free 99. Let's give it a watch, shall we?
Hey, what's
Oh
good, ladies and
shit.
gentlemen? Ackle here. Of course, welcome back to each and every one of you. Now, I was actually well on my way to my off weekend where I'm not going to work because I'm, sort of tired from the week. I've made a lot of videos this week, about averaging, I think, 5 or 6 videos a day. But then this little nugget of just excitement came across my desk, and I knew I absolutely had to talk about this. Now, Path of Exile 2 launched sort of like 2 weeks ago, I think, 2 weeks ago now, to early access. And, this is a game that's actually supposed to be free to play, but it launched to $30 for the early access, going all the way up to like $100 pack and even $500 packs for people that really want to support it. And I don't think it comes as a surprise to anyone that Path of Exile 2 has been absolutely knocking it out of the park. It is what everyone sort of hoped Diablo 4 would become and what Diablo 4 would have been. Remember, Blizzard promised a lot with Diablo 4, with Diablo 3 being such a big step back from what people were hoping. Diablo
Yeah, it's like the do you not have phones thing? And I don't know, I'll defend the guy on stage. You probably didn't know he would get that reaction. He's probably in a tough position. So I don't really blame the particular individual for saying, do you not have phones? It's just, again, like, if you look at marketing, like, and you see these things making money, right? Like mobile, like phone games and all that. And if you don't look any further into that, like you don't look, okay, well, yeah, that's true, but in the Chinese market, in the American market, it's not really. You don't consult the consumer, like you will genuinely be led to believe. At least the person on stage will be genuinely led to believe that this is what people want, like this is the future. Whereas maybe the company did it because they wanted to benefit from that Chinese money, but that doesn't excuse the shameful display that Blizzard as a whole has sort of presented for Diablo and other games. But I mean, I try to understand people's positions before I have, my definite opinion on it. I think it's just gives a better perspective.
Diablo 3 was going to be following the absolute blinding success of Diablo 2. Diablo 4 was supposed to be Blizzard's promising return to form, right? This was the game that's going to take them back. They're back in the ARPG market and they're coming in bigger and better than ever. And Blizzard had every opportunity to come back bigger and better than ever. You know, they had Path of Exile 1 to look to. They have Lost Ark to look to. There were so many ARPGs on the market that were trying new things and trying to be different things for different people. So Diablo 4 really had no excuse to not be good. And then the game launched, and most people were sort of going, wait, this is the base that you have? And really, I said from the beginning, Diablo 4 feels like a Diablo game made by a bunch of people that never actually played Diablo.
Yeah, this is what I said. It's made by people who. It's made by. And I'm not trying to be sexist, but it's made by what 12-year-old girls would think Diablo was, but because they're 12-year-old girls, they maybe understand the form, but they don't understand any of the substance. Like, the substance is just, I don't know. Because I look at even the characters of Diablo 4, and it's like, okay, so something bad happens, and now this character is sad, and this character is also sad, and this character is also sad, and they're all just sitting there sad. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Where's was the masculine fantasy that was too, right? Like, peak Diablo was Alariel throwing his sword at the World Stone and it splintering into thousands of fucking toothpicks, right? That was peak Diablo. Like, 4 is not peak Diablo. I don't know if 4 even is Diablo. I mean, you see this with many major IPs that are coming out. It's like they don't feel like this is why they keep using the whole return to form thing, because even the companies understand that they veered away from the idea. It's just either it's refusal to go back, or they legitimately hire people who just do not know, or they completely shut out products. One, better products that exist. Two, their exact same IP that existed in the past. It's like they shut these things out, and they believe that they are the only ones in the market to give you this product, when that's not the case. Like, people will turn away from popular IPs and seek out other forms of entertainment. Like, this is what's happening with Star Wars.
Feels like an ARPG that was made by a bunch of developers that's never actually played ARPGs. It's a bunch of developers that were told by some marketing department, hey, you know what really works at the moment? ARPGs. Make an ARPG. And they set out to do it. And then I got confirmation of this with the first big patch that was meant to fix a lot of the problems in the game. And even before the patch came out, so when Blizzard was still doing their blue posts about what they think they're going to be fixing in the game, a lot of the content creators and the people that are far more knowledgeable than me on ARPGs were talking about this, going, wait, but what are you doing? Like, these changes are absolutely not going to fix anything. And then the patch goes live. It breaks all of the things that the actual ARPG players warned about. Blizzard then releases another patch, and a lot of people, sort of as if with amnesia, praises Blizzard, especially the media, for being very responsive and absolutely listening to the player base and being quick on the trigger. And say, well, actually, if they were quick on the trigger, they would not have released the patch in that state in the first place. And then the second patch comes around, and Blizzard does exactly the same thing. And again, I have to fix the patch afterwards. That was all the confirmation that I needed. That Diablo 4, the developers behind that game really didn't know how to make a good ARPG. And then to put like the cherry on top, just a little boop on top, was Path of Exile 2.
Yeah, again, it's made by, again, and I said this a lot, a game made by committee. So made by people who do not even interact with the consumer. They do not interact with the product. They don't, understand the art or the process of game making. Whereas in the past, the coders had a say in the story, which had a say in the mechanics, which had a say in the art style. Now, so many games are just made like mass producible products. So you have like a group of people over here that works on one thing. Then you have another group of people far away, sometimes in other countries, working on another. And you have another group of people, for example, consultants, people who don't care for the product itself, but they care for ideology and for, ensuring the company gets government grants. Like they're working on something completely different. And you have such levels of delegation that what you have is a game like Diablo 4 that barely even functioned when it first came out, but it just doesn't feel like Diablo 4. Some of the worst problems Diablo 4 had was like the choreographed attacks. Like in a game like that where so much shit's happening on the screen, you just can't see everything. And Path of Exile kind of suffers from that, but at the end of the day, it's not as bad as Diablo. And Diablo 4 had to make specific changes to like certain attacks bosses do to address a problem that ARPGs, have already fixed years in the past. And then that's the problem. It's years in the past, they had people that knew what Diablo was. Nowadays, they don't.
Path of Exile first launched and I got my hands on it, I knew within like the first 2 hours, this is an ARPG made by people that understand what an ARPG is. It was very different to Path of Exile 1, and that's one of the reasons why Grinding Gear Games have said that they're continuing development on Path of Exile 1. Like, that's not stopping. Path of Exile 2 is not meant to be a replacement to Path of Exile 1. It's meant to be a different game to Path of Exile 1. So people who love the fast-paced sort of just blow things up, Path of Exile 1 style, they can still do that. And then people that want a more methodical, more almost strategic playtime with Path of Exile 2, they'd be able to do that. You look at the amount of in-game stuff that's in the game, it in early access already blows everything that Diablo 4 had on offer out of the water. And then, of course, the first big DLC for Diablo 4 comes around, and it finally puts the game at a place that most people agree this is the level that it should have been on at launch. So it took them almost a year to finally get the game to a playable state where it's actually a decent ARPG. Now, even there,
Yeah, and a lot of games that from AAA companies have this thing where they shove out just a minimal viable product for maximum price, and then they, quote unquote, fix it later. Like this was the weird thing that happened in like 2014, 2015, 2016. And this was absolutely reamed by people like Angry Joe because it was just a bad precedent. And it was a precedent that the consumer didn't ask for. Like, yeah, there are games that came out buggy and were eventually fixed, but yeah, the bugs were addressed and the game ended up being fine. But like New Vegas, like when I played it, the very first time I played New Vegas, it was damn near unplayable. But then the updates happened. But yeah, but because good games end up happen to be buggy and were fixed and people were okay with it, doesn't mean that should be a trend or a market standard. Because people absolutely ream you over the coals if that happens. Again, we can see that if it becomes a standard, we're not dumb. We're not, dumb consumers that just look at product, consume product, and give money. Like we see when trends happen, right?
first patch almost immediately broke a bunch of things. Second patch didn't do much better. And it's just been an incredibly rocky road for Diablo 4. Now, sadly, we don't really have numbers for Diablo 4. Because even if I go on Steam charts, for example, this really doesn't tell the full story. Because Diablo 4, it's not really on Steam. Remember, it first launched on Battle.net, and from Battle.net, it was very later ported to Steam. Now, there is an argument to be made here that the whole the reasoning from Blizzard to launch this on Steam was because it wasn't actually selling as well on Battle.net as they had hoped. So that could absolutely, definitely still be true. But even with that, these are not really numbers. Like, we can't take these numbers at face value. And that's what makes this story, I think, a lot more prominent and a lot more pertinent. Diablo 4 is free until January, and it lets you play as its most busted class. This is the Spiritborn, of course, and Blizzard is inviting everyone to just come on a rampage. Now, it is important to note that...
Yeah, and again, they made Diablo 4 in a way that benefits the top 10% that just, want to frag out, and the bottom 20% that just wants, to casually AoE, leaving, the 70% that's left with just a worse product. Because, most people, the people that are like, oh, well, the story's better, oh, the gameplay's better, oh, this is better, that's better. Well, with good games, even if you didn't care for the story, like, it still had a good. There's no reason not to give it a good story, and it still had a good story. Like, even if you press escape, 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 escape on all the cutscenes, right? A good story is a testament to effort. And then gameplay mechanics is a testament to competence. And Diablo 4 didn't really have any of that. I mean, it had like cutscenes that were movies that didn't go anywhere for the story, but and I guess now the game functions, but you could probably count on one hand how many games pulled back from being complete garbage, could be some completely different, from what the developer or whoever says is going to be. Like, off the top of my head, you got No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk, but those are just two games. I mean, maybe there are others that exist out there that ended up being complete utter shite. And I don't even think Cyberpunk was complete utter shite. I just think it was buggy, and people did what people usually do. They wait for it to get fixed and they jump back. But yeah, I think No Man's Sky is probably the only game that bounced back from being garbo.
This isn't the first time that Blizzard has done this with Diablo 4. They have been desperately trying to get players to actually try this game out. In fact, I think Diablo 4 has been free more than any other game I have ever seen, dude. Like, this game goes through free cycles pretty much every few months, where they're going for like a week free on this side, a week free on that side. And this latest one actually coincides with a massive 40% discount, as well as a 35% discount if you buy the whole package. That includes, of course, the brand new DLC for the game. The thing is, it's not so much that it is on this free-to-play cycle they're trying to get people's interest. I have no problem with games trying to do some promotions here and there. The reason this particularly is a very weird and awkward time is it's right around Christmas. This is the time where most people are most excited to spend money.
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
In January. The fact that you can play this game right up until January, in January people don't have money to be spending on games.
Yeah, like in January and February, like, you're broke as fuck because you already spent money on presents and all that. You're probably not really working as much. The bills are still coming in, like the heat bill and all that. Oh shit! Like, yeah.
Time where
what did I do to do that? I don't even know what I did. But yeah, that's what were January, February, and you did your taxes. like the government reaped your hard-earned cash from you because God forbid you make money. Like yeah, like December, a lot of again kids are off school. Like a lot of people are off work. Like this is the best time to goad people into spending money, but you really only do that if you have a product worth people spending money on. But unfortunately, Diablo 4 just wasn't it, Chief. Like Path of Exile is already sucking up that market share, and it's like they Blizzard has tried nothing, and they're all out of ideas.
On games. So the fact that Blizzard is giving it away for free now, during a time where most games will actually recoup a lot of their costs, that is significant. Remember, they have the actual physical live stats in the office, so they can see the numbers, and they can probably see when Path of Exile came out, they can see, whoa, that's a lot of players that we just lost there. And of course, when we look at Path of Exile, that is 350,000 people playing right now. And I would like for you to just take a look. That is almost at the peak, right? So this game is going from strength to strength, and it's been like this for a while, by the way. Like you can see here, these numbers are stable as hell. They are very, very rarely actually dipping. And you know a game is a good game when on its first weekend, it hits 539, then 578. Then it goes through a bit of a slump, not really that bad, but the next weekend, it's back to almost previous highs, right? You know that that is a good game. The game has been able to survive two...
Yeah, like a 90-something percentage retention over the weekend, like over that week, like that's huge.
2 weekends. So people are clearly putting in the work. People are all loving this game. You compare it to this clearly, but that's not the whole picture. This is the picture. This is what you should be focusing on. Diablo 4 is in trouble. Blizzard knows that Diablo 4 is in trouble. Diablo 4 was really Blizzard's sort of lost Hail Mary. This was the one that was meant to put Diablo back on the map. It was meant to save the Diablo franchise, because Diablo 3 did not do a good job of really carrying the Diablo franchise, and a lot of players were getting ready to ditch the efforts. I think Diablo 4 is gonna be another one of those disasters. That's not to say that no one will play it. There are absolutely people who are a little bit more on the casual side who will probably not have a problem playing something like Diablo 4 over something like Path of Exile, but even there, Path of Exile 2 is a lot more accessible for newbies and people who are just not that proficient at ARPGs than Path of Exile 1 ever was. It does a much better job of explaining a lot of things. The game is a little bit more slow paced, so it's a lot easier to learn. All I can see...
Well, my thing is, I'm surprised what Blizzard has next, because usually the success of, the next project is kind of predicated off the success of the previous. Like, if you had a bad previous project, it's not going to look good for any future, like, games that come out. And we know this where, with what's happening with BioWare, right? And, they're, like, well, I don't even know if I'd consider Veilguard a game. Because I think, was it Veilguard? No, it wasn't Veilguard. It was a certain game that released where you can literally just skip the combat and the dialogue. Duskborn? But that's a completely different game. Like, Veilguard is effectively a roll around simulator where your characters do all the killing. And again, I'm not even talking about the cringe dialogue. Like, if you take the cringe out of the game, it was just a bad game. Just fundamentally, like, compared to other Dragon Age games, even compared to other games in its genre, it's just less of a game.
Is that
so I'm kind of wondering how. I think Mass Effect's probably cooked. Like, we ain't getting. Obviously, you'll have journalists going to bat with their constituents because their constituents, the AAA companies, not the consumer. In fact, they'll gladly attack the consumer and defend their like the companies, AAA companies, but not even that is going to save the next product.
Blizzard is in trouble, and you know a company is in trouble when the games media writes an absolute glazer. You know, you go through this article. I'm not even going to read this article to you guys because I don't want to give Blizzard the free advertisement. But boys, this entire, like the first, I would say the first sort of third almost of this article is just them sort of writing a massive ad campaign for what you can expect. So just listen to this. If this cornucopia of shiny things and the dopamine hit of a massive loot drop sounds appealing to you, then good news. Because now until January 3, you can play Diablo 4 for free on PC via Battle.net and on PlayStation Xbox, but we don't talk about those there. Dude, this is literally just an ad. They got PC Gamer to write them an ad.
Yeah, and this is what I mean, right? Because Blizzard is AAA company, and PC Gamer are their constituents. So yeah, they're glazing it. Like they're going to probably disregard everything else, like all the problems or all the issues, all the fact that what the consumer's saying, and just glaze it because. I mean, that's effectively. I mean, I wouldn't say it's their job, but it's in their interest to do so.
That is how disgusting, first and foremost, the gaming media is, but that is how much trouble Blizzard is in. They know that they are in trouble. They know that things are not looking up. Things are not going well. I think Blizzard as a whole is struggling. There's a lot of troubling signs within World of Warcraft. A lot of the player base is at a point with World of Warcraft where they just sort of clocked out. They're just sort of checked out. And now you have Diablo 4. Overwatch 2 has been a nightmare and a disaster pretty much since the beginning. And now you have Marvel Rivals that is absolutely wrecking Overwatch's crap. I mean, just take a look at this, right? Overwatch 2, it has 30,000 players at the moment.
Yep.
Marvel Rivals, 290,000 players at the moment.
Yeah, and this is what I mean, right? And again, even comparing this to Concord, like they tried to, the games journalists tried to defend Concord by saying, "Oh, hero shooters are just a dying genre." And it's like, no, it ain't. Like Deadlock Protocol proved that wasn't the case. Like at best, they tried to cushion the destruction. At worst, like he said, they glazed them, and they act like they're this bastion of information. They can just sway people towards their side, and maybe that works for some people, but conscious consumers don't act that way. They will look at previous products, and they will look at where people are coming from and what they say online, and they will form rather that or not they want to make the purchase based off that. And no amount of glazing can really fix that or change that.
Moment. So quite clearly, things are not looking well over at Blizzard. Things are not looking up. It's not looking as if things are getting better. And if this article is anything to go by, in the same way that we're celebrating Ubisoft, and I made a video about it yesterday, Ubisoft is about to go bankrupt. I think we might very quickly start to see major layoffs at Blizzard Entertainment as Microsoft most likely starts to look at a potential cutback on Diablo 4 staff, the team that runs it, and maybe a whole slew of others. Fundamentally, the IPs are worth a lot, but teams don't seem to be able to make them work. Have you played Diablo 4? Do you like it? How do you feel about Path of Exile 2? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, hit the like if you like, dislike if you didn't, and I'll still see all of you. I shall see all of you in the next one. Peace.
Yeah, again, like, people don't want bad games. Like, I mean, maybe if your entire channel is predicated off shitting on bad games, don't worry. They will always exist, but, people want good games. People want the entertainment to be good. But, again, companies like Ubisoft have put time, money, and effort to shit on all of that goodwill. and they blame you for not purchasing the product. So because Ubisoft is failing, yeah, I think people are like, yeah, what the fuck were you expecting? Hell, I mean, this is a good thing. Like, it's a good thing where companies that have completely lost their, completely forgot why they exist, and that is to put out a product. Like, they forgot to do that. That's how the deal is. If they fail, yeah, people are like, yeah, I mean, what the fuck are you expecting? And good fucking riddance. I knew I was right about waiting for a discount, still not playing it though. Yep. Late, but let's be real. The lazy real Diablo game was Diablo. The the last real Diablo game was Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction. Yeah, I always bring it back to Diablo 2 because, again, objectively better game. Triple Studio should be afraid of smaller devs that actually care about the gamers wants to play. Yeah, I mean, you have, and that's a situation you have to be in if you're a smaller dev. Like, you have to actually put out a good product. Otherwise, you enter just the uh, cornucopia of slop on Steam, or games that have potential, and maybe like a YouTuber picks you up, but usually you just, sit in the pile. The developers at Blizzard are not hired based off their talent. That is the problem. Yeah, I feel like that's probably part of the issue. Like, because of the culture that was in America in the past couple of years, companies were trying to more cover their ass as opposed to release a product. PO2 is a great game. It's hard to stop playing once your character starts to take off and annihilate bosses. Hell yeah. Personally, I've kind of putting it down because, I don't know, I just kind of not really lost interest, but it kind of just feels like I think my build is too good because me just blowing through mobs for hours just kind of got boring. But no, I don't, and I don't, uh, regret spending the $30. It is a good game, and I will put my money towards, what I want to see in the industry. It's just for me, I'll probably just wait for the full release, and if they add any more things, probably just PoE like game goes free to play. Proceeds to continue playing PoE. Yep. They could at this point pay me to play. I would not. Yep. Wouldn't even pirate it. Yeah, sorry. Not coming back to Diablo forever. It's just important to go back to non WASD plus dodge mechanics and not feel like something's very wrong. Oh, it's just impossible to go back to. Yeah. Yeah. PoE is destroying Diablo. Even if you spend $20 on PoE, you'll have a better time than all of Diablo. Yes, sir. Just download PoE 2. Looking forward to seeing what it's like. Come on, I need a title somewhere. Never moved from Diablo 3 to Diablo 4. Best decision I've made. And, well, that's. I'm going to take this. I don't know how that will translate in as a title. But that's all I really got to say about this. Peace.